Artifacts. Miraculous, seemingly magical objects formed when typical objects are exposed to the extreme conditions of the zone. They are one of the very few reasons anyone would drag themselves to such a godforsaken place. Originating just after the first emission, artifacts are one of the prime motivators and a catalyst for the stalkers present in the zone. Stalkers who dare search for them put themselves in danger of serious injury and, more likely, death in their efforts for such coveted objects. The vast majority of artifacts have developed highly sought-after properties, some being able to absorb great amounts of heat, while others may heal a man simply by being in a close proximity to him. Outside the zone, demand for artifacts is massive, whether it be from the industrial sector to collectors. Their properties make them highly desirable in industries like manufacturing, where an artifact that can absorb impossible amounts of heat would be a godsend. Of course, not to mention the fact that artifacts causing the tissue regeneration required to have a healing effect are no doubt invaluable to advances in medicine. Oftentimes, stalkers find themselves keeping artifacts for their own uses, particularly in surviving the unique dangers of the zone. Some of the most critical artifacts to a stalker's survival in the zone can absorb radiation, and considering the vast majority of artifacts produce radiation when in close proximity to a stalker so as to emit its positive effect, the presence of a radiation absorber allows the stalker to utilize artifacts in conjunction with each other that would otherwise result in serious bodily harm. Not to mention the more simple use in the improvement in survivability for stalkers seeking to venture into the dangerously irradiated areas of the zone. A chart listing the artifacts and colloquial names of each as well as their effects is listed in the description below. Stalkers rarely ever engage in a direct transaction with individuals outside the zone, and instead typically sell their artifacts to traders with connections to those on the outside. These traders, who can typically be found wherever stalkers congregate, are the ones that sell artifacts to buyers outside the zone. Artifacts are most commonly found and formed in anomalies, though their locations have changed over time. Originally, they were very plentiful and could be found in seemingly random locations around the zone at times. Over time, artifacts became less and less pervasive throughout the zone prior to the second Great Emission, after which the presence of artifacts became common again. It has been determined that the formation of artifacts is catalyzed by emissions, leading some to conclude that the lack of artifacts prior to the second Great Emission was due to them all having been collected by stalkers. With each subsequent emission, new artifacts are formed. However, the new generation of artifacts formed after the second Great Emission appear to have different properties than those prior to it, though they maintain a similar appearance. Take, for instance, the Gravy, which has changed from preventing rupture damage to lessening the burden carried by a stalker when in close proximity to them. Some explain this as a sort of change in composition in the artifacts over time, but others claim it to be a change in the anomalies in the zone itself. The answer remains unclear. As artifacts have become less common due to the lack of a great emission, they also appear less visible to the naked eye. Most stalkers have become reliant on the use of detectors, which indicate the position of artifacts based on the supposedly anomalous frequencies they emit, or by the particles they produce, depending on which model you use. Once a stalker reaches very near to the artifact, it becomes visible to the naked eye. This adds yet another layer of difficulty for the stalkers attempting to navigate the dangerous anomaly fields. Artifacts in the zone have driven many to their promise of wealth, much as the many historical oil and gold rushes before it, though it remains to be seen whether this rush's dangers are to be significantly more deadly than its predecessors. Should you consider yourself among the ranks of these treasure hunters, I suggest you tread carefully, else you find yourself lost to the zone.
Get out of here, Stalker.